Hi there, it's Brittany from By Brittany Goldwyn. I post videos about plants and projects, and today we are talking about sheet mulching. So what is sheet mulching? If you want to get rid of grass anywhere in your yard, which we have been doing a lot of over the years since we moved in here, sheet mulching is one of the best ways to do it. Now you can dig out grass, and there are some times when that may be the better choice, but sheet mulching is by far our preferred method for a couple of different reasons. Essentially to sheet mulch, you just put down a bunch of organic matter over grass to smother it out. The way I do it is I usually put down cardboard and then I put down traditional mulch over top of it because it's areas that I'm mulching. But today I'm going to be showing you how to sheet mulch using leaves, the paper bags that the leaves came in because we picked all of them up from our neighbors on Yard Waste Day, and then using compost on top because this is an area that we have planted a bunch of fruit bushes. So I don't want to use straight mulch because the compost from our dump is like super cheap. So I'm just going to use that to help improve the soil. So here's a closer look at the area that we are going to be working on sheet mulching today. You can't really see it right now because they're just tiny, tiny plants, but if you see a couple twigs sticking out, those are the berry plants. There are 3 berry plants in the second row here, and the row closer to the fence, there are 4 here. So what we're going to do is pull a line out kind of roughly where my finger's going, edge that line out and convert all of this to a sheet mulched area that does not have grass. We are going to wait to do the edging until the spring and finish off some of the sheet mulching in the spring. But for now, I'm going to go in with all of these leaves we have and all of the extra bags from the yard waste pickup we've been doing because I don't want them sitting all winter, and I want them to have the full winter to get jump started on decomposing and improving the soil. So to get started here, you can see this was all grass. I did dump a bunch of leaves on this last night just because I needed to empty out some of the bags to make room for some more. So normally we will be starting with just a grass area. I have already dumped some leaves and I'm going to rake them out before we get started laying any of the paper bags. Okay, so I've got my rake here. And as I rake this out, I'm going to be very, very careful to not rake out these plants. Some of them are bigger than others, like this one I think is one of the bigger ones, but a lot of them are very, very small. So, I think that was one right there, this little guy right here. So my goal raking out the leaves is just to get them roughly into a non-unlayered pile. I don't want them too thick around here. So as you can see, some of these are much thicker than others. So I'm just gonna push them out. And the reason I'm using leaves here, I mentioned, is because I want to be improving the soil. So leaves are awesome for that. I'm generally a proponent of leaving the leaves where they fall, but if I see bags of leaves on the street on Yard Waste Day with some of my neighbors and friends, I'm gonna take them because it's free gold for the garden. So right now, just trying to get them into a roughly even layer. And I want to talk a little bit while I'm doing this about the benefits of sheet mulching. So leaves are great for the soil, and one of the reasons why I love sheet mulching is because it really supercharges the soil that you're growing in with a bunch of organic matter. So as these leaves are rotting away, they are turning into some of the best stuff you can have for your soil. There's a reason why people pay a lot of money for bags and deliveries of leaf compost, because it's awesome. It's got all the good stuff. And when you sheet mulch and start with some leaves first, what you're doing is you are giving a nice solid layer of leaves underneath of the cardboard or paper bags or whatever you lay down next to decompose and improve that soil. Just a nice base layer. Okay, now that I've got a nice layer of leaves here, It rained last night on the ones I had down, so they were already pretty compressed, but the ones that I just laid today were super dry. So I'm gonna grab the hose and hose everything down really quickly just to kind of compress it a little bit and just wet everything down to get a more even layer. And practically speaking, wetting down the leaves either from rain or using the hose is going to help keep them in place, keep them from blowing away. We do have a bit of a light breeze today, and the ones that were wet from the rain last night are not moving, so they're staying put where I need them to be. And this is definitely going to be a multi-day job because I don't have enough compost to sheet mulch this entire area today. So I want as much of these leaves to stay in place as possible, and wetting them down will make them a little bit less likely to blow away. Okay, now it's time to start our layering, and this layering is why some people call sheet mulching the lasagna composting method, because it's just going to slowly compost. Oh, there's a little snail. Get off of there. Slowly compost everything until it all just becomes one with the earth. So it's not like a more traditional composting method where you put it in a pile and turn it, or you put it in a barrel and, spin it every couple weeks, both of which are methods that we use. They have their place, but for sheet mulching, I think the long-term method is best. And honestly, it's also the easiest. It's less work. The most work you have to do is hauling stuff around, which, isn't the easiest thing in the world, but I think it's a lot easier than digging up the earth and then having to find somewhere to put it, because you always forget about where you're gonna put the earth you dig up. So what I'm doing now is I am not letting anything go to waste here. I am taking the bags that the yard waste came in. All of these are double bagged already, so it's gonna give me a pretty good layer between the leaves and the compost I'm putting on top. And the goal of putting down cardboard or paper bags is simply to prevent that grass from coming through in the spring. You can do this in the fall, you can do this any time of year. I think it's easiest to do it in the fall because the grass has already kind of stopped growing. It's not nearly as vigorous, but you do want to have some sort of barrier. And since I'm not planning to lay the compost down that thick, the cardboard will help and it will degrade over time. So it's not like a landscape fabric, which you'll have to dig up and it'll, block plants from coming through and things like that. But if you don't want to use cardboard, you can just lay down whatever you're laying down super thick. My cousin just dumps like inches and inches and inches of wood chips onto his soil to kill off grass areas. And that works for him because he has a really big place where he can get wood chips dropped. We do not, so I love using these to help kill off that grass in a more efficient way. So all I'm gonna do here is start laying them. So I'm just gonna walk over here and I'm gonna start on the inside area here and work my way out. So all I'm gonna do is lay these bad boys down as flat as I can get them. And this is an existing mulched bed here. I like to leave my perennials and annuals, as much of them as I can, over the winter. Just wait until the spring to cut them all down, because they do keep some of the visual interest in the yard, and most importantly, they provide a nice cozy little habitat for bugs over the winter. So these are actually really nice because since it rained last night, they're kind of floppy and flat. So I think that is a bonus. So I'm gonna run them right up here against this catmint where we've already mulched in here. We've already killed off all of this grass. I'm gonna get them as flat as possible. And this is not an exact science, but I like to take the bags and try to overlap them a little bit, just to help ensure that, we're getting as much coverage as we can, because these weeds and grass, they can be sneaky coming through. So I don't like to leave any gaps. I like to overlap as much as possible. And you're still gonna get weeds popping through. You're still gonna get grass popping through on that first year after sheet mulching, but this does help to lessen that. Okay, we've got a nice little critical mass here of bags laid down roughly where we want to pull that edging out next spring. So I am going to start laying some of our compost. It's probably not going to get me too far today, but I do want to empty all of our buckets and bins so we can go get some more. So for this job, I'm using compost. It's called Revive Compost, and it's actually from our local dump. It is what they make out of all the yard waste that they pick up. So what these leaves would have been if I would have let them go to yard waste. So this stuff is super cheap. It's like under a penny per pound. We just don't have a truck, so it's kind of a pain. We have to drive, fill these buckets and bins. I need a good friend with a truck who doesn't mind their truck bed getting full of dirt. That would be so much easier. But for now, this is what we're stuck with. And we think it's worth it because honestly, we got 220 pounds of this compost yesterday for $1.75. So still worth it in our opinion. And it's really good stuff too. So all I'm gonna do is take this compost and dump it. Okay, so I've got enough dumped right here. I'm gonna show you how I rake it out now. Really, you just rake it out carefully with a rake to make sure you don't disturb the leaves and the paper bags underneath of it too much. All right, so after one more trip to the dump, I've gotten enough compost to pretty much cover half of this area, maybe a little over half. So again, I just repeated the steps of laying down the paper bags or pieces of clean cardboard I had, and then layering the compost over top. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this video here. I will finish doing this section of area with more bags and compost as I get them, but it probably won't be for another few weeks. And then I'll just let this sit over the winter. I'll let it sit out in the elements. I'll let the snow sit on it if we get any snow this year. I'll let it melt, and then in the spring we will come in and probably put a new fresh layer of some sort of mulch on here, or some more of this compost when things start to wake up for the growing season. And then we'll also edge out that border and make this a little bit of a cleaner looking area. But for now, we've gotten a great jump start on smothering out the grass in this area and getting just a little bit less grass in our yard. So if you are interested in doing the same in your yard and creating more space for growing things that you want to grow other than grass, I hope you found this method helpful. Until next time, happy planting.